Thank you for joining the Once Changing the World, India's first future tech meets sustainability podcast. I'm your host, Avil, and over the years, I've interviewed close to 300 disruptive entrepreneurs and change makers. And I've learned a lot, insights as well as foresights. And it's about time I start sharing the same insights to you guys, giving it back, right? So from today onwards, I start this monthly series where I explore a subject. And I'm starting with exploring one of the most intriguing questions that has both captivated and puzzled me. Are we living in a simulated world? And if so, can we hack our way out? So let's dive in. I would want to kind of first start with maybe explaining what the simulation hypothesis is. So imagine a world which is built entirely by code, meticulously crafted within a vast computer program. So this mind-bending concept, the simulation hypothesis, proposes that the entire universe, everything that we experience, might be an artificial construct. And this idea of a simulated universe isn't something which is new. It's got roots in ancient philosophy, modern culture, as well as entertainment. We have seen movies such as Matrix, which talks about or shows that how Neo is in a simulated universe and he kind of tries and breaks out. Then, Vedic history, we have Rishi Munis who have quoted that "Sab kuch moh aur maya hai." For the ones who don't understand Hindi, moh aur maya means everything is greed and illusion, that everything is unreal. Then we have Adi Sankaracharya, who's an Indian Vedic scholar, philosopher, and teacher of Advaita Vedanta. He frequently speaks in his works that the observable universe is a simulation. And even Plato's allegory, in the Western world, the allegory of the cave speaks about, where shadows on a wall represent our limited perception of reality. So a simulated universe is something not new. It's got roots in ancient history. And recently it's gained traction because of people like Elon Musk, who has brought public awareness that we might be living in a simulated universe. The reason being, or the exponential growth of technology. I personally have been vested in virtual reality. And if you go to maybe the early 1960s, we had a computer as possibly big as a room. And then the miniaturization of technology over the years has made that computer almost like a computer in a pocket. And it's much powerful than what maybe astronauts had in the early 1960s when they actually the first landed on moon. So technology is growing exponentially and it's making these things possible. I've been invested in virtual reality. And today we can do like very good simulation, which emulates the sight and sound completely realistically. What's left is taste, smell, and touch. And I think with technologies such as haptic feedback and brain-computer interface, we could also be maybe stimulating or emulating these senses, through brain-computer interface. Maybe we could nudge you with a transcranial stimulator, where we fire a bunch of we fire some electricity, and which maybe you're just sitting and you will feel that you're eating a mango, or you will get the we can stimulate a certain part of your brain and you'll be smelling a certain thing. So these are now becoming possible. And at the rate at which technology is growing, I mean, imagine what the world would be in maybe 100 years, because today we are creating these realistic simulations for our factories, for our work, for predictive maintenance and so on and so forth, with these things called digital twins. And these are with Unreal Engine, we creating really photorealistic simulations. So what would this technology be able to do maybe 100 years down the line? And that's very fascinating. And that's the reason, and people like Elon Musk and others say that we could already be living in a virtual simulation. And this has been pioneered by Nick Bostrom, and he has proposed a simulation hypothesis, and his simulation argument rests on three main pillars. The first one being, he says, a future civilization could achieve the computational capacity to run vast numbers of high fidelity simulations of their ancestors. So that's the first argument, which he says that humans have created so much of technological advancement that just to understand our ancestors, they could have created vast numbers of all of these simulations. And second argument is that if such simulations are feasible, it's probable that we are living in one of those numerous simulations rather than base reality. And the third argument is that the alternative to these propositions is that all civilizations at our current levels of technological development either go extinct before achieving this capability or universally lose interest in creating such a simulation. So only the third scenario, where either we meet an existential crisis, maybe an asteroid hits us where the human species goes extinct, or we've got extremely bored of a technology, that's when we do not create a simulation. So what this suggests that that we ourselves are living in a simulation rather than a base reality. And I will kind of try and kind of give you why I feel that we are living in a simulation. I think it's great to start with the beginning of everything, which is the Big Bang, which they say that it started from nothing, but yet it created everything. Now, you might say that, what do you mean by it started from nothing? Well, the Big Bang theory proposes that the universe began from an atom, which was packed with incredibly hot, dense energy. And this was 13.8 billion years ago, and because of which it expanded and exploded, and this energy then cooled and expanded into a ever expanding universe, forming the matter and energy that we observe today, right from the star, sun, moon, air we breathe, the trees, the animals, as well as us. Now let's begin by exploring the size of the atom and how its explosive release of energy could create this universe, which I kind of find ridiculous as well as possibly magical. Now, the size of the atoms are so small, they can't be seen with even the most powerful optical microscope. So you need special tools like scanning tunneling microscopes to actually observe these microscopes. And when you observe them, they're basically largely empty spaces by themselves. And the atom, think about maybe like a grain of sand, and then possibly you go a million times smaller. And maybe I can give you an analogy of an apple. If an apple were magnified to the size of the earth, then the atoms in the apple would be about the size of the original apple. So I'm a layman, but I completely find this ridiculous as well as magical that everything that we observe and everything that we see, the entire universe, the stars, sun, moon, the galaxies, the humans and everything, could actually come out of a tiny atom. Now, even if they say that, okay, we've come out of a tiny atom, because that's what these physicists posit, let's kind of explore the atom and understand why I say that we live in a simulation. Now, there was this experiment done, which is very, very well known, called the double slit experiment. It was done originally by Thomas Young in 1801. Then eventually there's many others who kind of did the experiment. The basic setup of the experiment is two blackboards with a particle beam that kind of fires these single protons out of those beams. Now you've got these two blackboards, and in the first blackboard you have two narrow slits. So through the beam you fire these protons. The protons goes through the beams, and the expected result is that it should hit the barrier or the blackboard behind in the same formation of those from the two slits, right? Because if you're firing these slits, particles, it should pass through those narrow slits and it should go onto the blackboard. But that's not what the actual results. When the experiment is performed, we observe an interface pattern on the screen. This interface pattern is characteristics of waves rather than particles, suggesting that the particles can behave like waves, as well as particles, and that's what we call the wave particle duality, which has been debated over the ages. And here comes the role of the observer. So the fascinating aspect of the double slit experiment is that the outcome can be affected by an observation. So you keep an observer behind the first screen, and if we attempt to measure if the observer is viewing which slit this particle has passed through, the interference pattern disappears and the particles behaves like individual particles. This suggests that the act of observation can influence the behavior of particles at the quantum level. So here also understand the quantum level and the macro level. The world behaves completely differently. So largely this implies that consciousness has a fundamental role in shaping the reality we experience. Even the Copenhagen interpretation of quantum mechanics too suggests that the act of observation is necessary to collapse the wave function. Now I will talk about maybe other evidence and oddities which kind of makes me believe that we live in a simulated universe. Now, I'm sure, I don't know whether if you've heard about cosmogenesis. So cosmogenesis is basically the thought or a hypothesis of creating a universe in a lab. Yes, you heard me correct. Create the entire universe that we know in a lab. And it was proposed by Alan Guth, Andre Lind, and Eduardo Gondelman, who I had the pleasure to interview on my podcast. And I'm going to share the link here for you guys also to go through it. So here the theory is that you can actually create a universe in a lab. What they mean by that is, I'm sure you guys have heard about the underground collider called CERN, which is in Europe, which is created to kind of simulate what happened in the Big Bang. So to learn about the Big Bang. So what Alan Guth, Andre Lind, and Eduardo Gondelman proposes that there is an hypothesized particle called monopole, which if you shoot two more particles in the underground particle collider, and when they crash onto each other with the speed of light, it would create so much of energy that it would create a wormhole, it would detach from a universe, and then it would create a universe by itself. And in that universe, life would form, and there could be humans also, could evolve. So they propose that cosmogenesis, the theory is that, you can actually create a universe in a lab. And yes, that's kind of pretty much mind-blowing. For those who want to kind of dig deep, please check the link below. And my podcast kind of delves a little bit more because I speak to Eduardo Gondelman on the podcast. Then there is Dr. Slyvester James Gates. He's an American theoretical physicist who's worked on supersymmetry, supergravity, and superstring theory. And he served on former President Barack Obama's Council of Advisors on Science and Technology. So while working on supersymmetry equations, Slyvester Gates figure and his team discovered that the entire cosmos is written with a visual coding language called Adinkra. And not just that, they also discovered that the mathematical structures they were dealing with contained patterns similar to an error correcting code, which is used in computer science. So what does this tell you? So this discovery suggests that the universe might operate on principles similar to those of a computer with built-in mechanisms to maintain stability and coherence. So the presence of an error correcting code in the fabric of reality in cosmos itself lends to the idea that our universe could be a simulation. And then there is Mandela effect, which kind of strengthens that, because the Mandela effect is a phenomena where a large group of people seem to have false memories about a shared event or a piece of information. Now, the reason of the false memories or change or what we know could be because the universe is glitching, and due to the error correcting code that the universe itself has, according to Dr. Slyvester Gates, it tries to undo the error sometimes, leading to a change of history as we know it. And that's the reason we see these different histories, with the Mandela effect, in which I think you guys should kind of double check. Then there is the holographic universe. Holographic universe means means information that makes up what we perceive as a 3D reality is stored on a 2D surface, including time. This means essentially everything you see and experience is basically a holographic universe, and it's just an illusion. Then there is Tom Campbell, who's working on my big toe, which is the theory of everything. His main idea is that the entire universe or reality is a virtual reality simulation created by a larger consciousness system. Then there is Donald Hoffman, who talks about the same thing, that the universe is basically like a virtual reality, and space-time itself, he says it's doomed because space-time does not exist and is basically a virtual reality headset. He's written a beautiful book called The Case Against Reality: Why Evolution Hid the Truth from Our Eyes. It's something that I think you guys should read. It's an eye-opener, and you will see there's more evidence that he kind of bring forth, which suggests that we live in a simulated universe. There's Klee Irwin, whose key work is self-simulation hypothesis. Irwin proposes that the universe is a self-simulating system, constantly computing its own state. Then there is David Chalmers. He's written a lovely book called Reality Plus: Virtual Worlds and the Problems of Philosophy. And his main idea is where he explores the philosophical implication of virtual reality and simulation theory. He argues that the simulated reality can just be as real and meaningful as physical reality. So because there are a lot of people who kind of take this view, this, okay, if we are in a simulated universe, why should we bother? Because the simulated reality can be just as real and as meaningful. Then there is Rizwan Virk, who's written a book called The Simulation Hypothesis. So there are so many people who kind of push forward, and possibly we already live in a virtual world, and the entire universe could be maybe just a simulated reality. There is obviously evidence against this also, because we still currently do not have complete evidence. There's no scientific way to prove or disprove the hypothesis, though there are people like Silas Bean and Tom Campbell and many others who are working on, including Donald Hoffman, who are currently working on bringing forward more evidence, to prove that we are living in a simulated universe. So what I would like to conclude, and what I would want you to take from this talk, is that even if we are living in a simulated universe, take the concept of the conscious observer creating its own reality, manifesting its own reality. And there are people throughout history, millionaires, billionaires, celebrities, sports stars, actors, who have gone on record and mentioned that how they have created their own reality by manifesting what they desire, by meditating, by thinking positively, focusing on positive thoughts, and bringing their dream into reality. And there are various books out there, which again you can read. There is obviously, I'm sure you know about Rhonda Byrne's The Secret, The Law of Attraction. That book has popularized the concept of the law of attraction, which states that like attracts like. By focusing on positive thoughts and desires, you can manifest your dreams into reality. And the same is thought basically is something pushed by Joe Dispenza in a different way. Dispenza focuses on the concept of neuroplasticity, which is the brain's ability to change and adapt. He argues that by changing your thoughts and beliefs, you can change your brain and consequently your reality. So he suggests like meditation and visualization techniques of seeing and living into in the future that you imagine, like more money, a great partner, better health, great business. If you visualize, you manifest and you create that reality. Then there is Neville Goddard, whose work is heavily influenced by the New Thought movement. He believes that imagination is the key to reality. By imagining your desired outcome as if it has already happened, you can bring it into manifestation. Each of you are like the creator as well as the devil. So you can create your own reality. And that's what even the double slit experiment suggests, that, a conscious observer creates their own reality. So even if we are in a simulated reality, understand the potential of it. We are forever tuned to think negatively and live in fear. Push that out, push the negativity, push the fear, connect with everyone, because I think we constantly live in lack. The game change here is, live in abundance, because this universe, if we manifest our own reality, because if we live in a virtual world and if everything is made out of atoms, you are the designer, you are the creator. So even if you have health issues, you can create a better health, you can create whatever you want. So what I would like to conclude here is that with this powerful thought, that we are the creators and we are the destroyers. And whatever you want, since we live in a virtual world, you can manifest your own reality. Thank you. And I hope you enjoyed this talk, and I hope that you will dig a little deeper into the simulated universe and take this thought that if we are the creator, then anybody can create your own reality, and even you will create your own reality. I'm Eddie Avil, and this has been the Once Changing the World, where we explore tomorrow's questions today. If you've enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe and join a community of future-focused thinkers. Until next time, keep questioning, keep exploring, and keep shaping tomorrow.